I'm Chris, you're watching FRAG-MENTAL, thank you for joining me. How does this compare to this? Let's go on an exploration. Let's explore whether Mont Blanc Explorer is as good as Creed Aventus. Join me on this exploration to explore Mont Blanc Explorer. Go. Let's go. I've recently found myself in possession of Mont Blanc Explorer. I didn't pay for this. This was sent to me for free by a company called Essential. They have a website. I'll leave a link to their website down below. And they were doing what they were calling a blind fragrance trial. They asked me to be part of a panel of people who would receive 8 blind fragrances, so in unmarked vials, and we just had to give our thoughts on what we thought of the fragrances, what we thought was in them, and what fragrances we thought they might be. I smelled this one straight away and I knew it was based on the Aventus DNA. I knew it wasn't Aventus because I know that website doesn't carry Aventus. So I did an Instagram live very quickly. A friend of mine who has the channel 2 Cents Worth, Nigel, was watching the video and he straight away suggested Mont Blanc Explorer, which, as we all know if we've been following the release of this on YouTube, it's based on, or it seems to be based on, Creed's Aventus. And I think that confirmed it in the video when I didn't know what the fragrance was, but straight away I knew it was an Aventus-like fragrance. So that's how I came to be in possession of Mont Blanc Explorer. So I thought I'd give it a wear. I thought it might be of interest. A few people on the Instagram live that I did mentioned they would be interested in hearing my comparisons to Creed Aventus. So I will be comparing over the next few minutes how this stacks up against Creed Aventus. By the way, this is a 2016 batch, so I find it to be a nice balanced batch of Aventus. I really enjoy this. I don't have any issues with performance or concentration. I feel like this is a good one. So why have Mont Blanc released a fragrance that smells similar to Aventus? Well, they want to make some money, don't they? I think Aventus is probably the most cloned fragrance. That DNA just keeps popping up with clone companies, and even companies like Mont Blanc that aren't outwardly admitting that they're a clone company. And that's another debate in itself. You know, a lot of people will hate on these clone companies for copying the DNA that other companies have worked so hard to produce. But the clone companies are admitting that that's what they're doing. They're not hiding anything. Whereas certain companies are producing fragrance DNAs that are so similar to other existing DNAs, but they're not mentioning that it's a copy or a clone or it's inspired by. I mean, it happens, you know. It happens in big niche brands. It happens in designer brands like this. Okay, so how does Mont Blanc Explorer compare to Creed Aventus? It's not as good. As simple as that. That's probably what you'd expect given the price point of this compared to this. I think you're looking around £30 on discounters for Mont Blanc Explorer. Mont Blanc aren't an expensive brand, very affordable brand, which is great. This just doesn't have the quality of Creed. It does have that DNA. You can tell it's very similar to Aventus, but it doesn't have that lovely pop that the opening of Aventus has. It has a similar opening, but it just doesn't have as much of an opening. It's not as big an opening to me as Aventus. And this whole feeling of it being an Aventus light fragrance just persists throughout the life of Mont Blanc Explorer because it doesn't have the richness, it doesn't have the quality. It's obviously not using materials as high quality as this 2016 batch of Aventus anyway. So all the way through the fragrance you can tell that this doesn't have the quality of the Creed, it doesn't have the performance of the Creed, and it doesn't have the longevity or the projection, so it's not as good. It's Aventus light. The performance of this, I'm getting 5 or 6 hours and then I've pretty much lost it, or it's become a very faint skin scent. The longevity of Aventus, I get 8-9 hours. The opening projection, you get a lovely, easy 2 to 3 hours of this batch of Aventus, and it's quite strong and potent and definitely detectable. This, I'm getting about an hour, but it's not as strong, it's not projecting as much, and it's not projecting with as much quality. So the question is, should you buy this? And some people out there might be saying, well, you compare the price of this to this, then, you know, maybe Mont Blanc Explorer is worth it. But in a world where we have so many clones of Aventus, I think we have to take this into consideration. If you want to spend money on the Aventus DNA, but you don't want to buy the original, then my advice would be, why would you want to buy one that is a weaker version of the original when there are clones out there that will do a much better job than this one? Just off the top of my head, I know they're not that cheap, but Parfums Vintage do amazing clones of Creed Aventus. Emperor is fantastic, probably has better performance than the current batches that are coming out of Aventus, which is purported to be weaker than the version I have here, but I haven't tried the latest versions of Creed Aventus, so I can't speak from my own experience. Perfume Parlour also do a fantastic clone of Aventus, which is very cheap, and that has better performance than Mont Blanc Explorer. We've got Dua's Poseidon's Elixir, which I have, and I think is very good. I believe Alexandria's versions of Aventus are very good and not too expensive. You can purchase those in the UK and in the US. So we've got all these options of clones that, okay, I think a few of them maybe a little bit more expensive than this, but not that much more expensive. Certainly the Perfume Parlour one is definitely not more expensive than this. I would buy one of those, unless you really don't like clones, unless you don't want a clone bottle on your shelf and you want a Mont Blanc bottle on your shelf. That would be the only reason to go for it. And the presentation of this, to me, is the only saving grace, really. It's a pretty nice bottle. It's a nice bottle to have on the shelf. It's a good sturdy bottle. It's got a good weight to it. The cap is metal and not plastic, so it would be good to travel with, and Mont Blanc are marketing this as a fragrance for explorers, for travelers, you know, for rugged men who travel and want to smell good. But personally, the clones that I have do a better job than this. But ultimately, if you can afford a decant of Aventus or the real thing, then I would save you money and go for this one, because I don't think you'll regret it, really. Let's just imagine a world where Aventus didn't exist. Let's imagine a world where there weren't any Aventus clones. Wow, what a strange world that would be. Anyway, if this was a release of a fragrance and Mont Blanc had come up with the DNA of this themselves, then I think it would be a great release, because we all know how enjoyable that Aventus DNA is. So if Mont Blanc could come up with the DNA, then, you know, it would be a great fragrance to travel with, where maybe, you know, if you're traveling and you're on an aeroplane or trains and things, and you don't want to be too close to other people, you don't want to be choking people out, you don't want anything that's too cloying, then this is a relatively light, versatile and easy to wear fragrance. You know, if you're running out and the scent is going and you've got it in your travel bag, then, you know, a few more quick sprays. So in a world without Aventus, I think this would be a nice release. But the world has Aventus, doesn't it? So there's no point in talking about it in those terms. I'm just going to sum things up by saying it's a nice smell, but it's not as good as this. If you want the full Aventus experience, then buy Aventus, or buy a decant of Aventus, or purchase one of the clones. Personally, this is not one that I would buy, and therefore I can't recommend to you that you should buy this one as well. But if you're alright with it being Aventus Light, if that's fine with you, if you enjoy that performance and you don't mind it not having the richness and the quality of Aventus, then you'd probably enjoy it, and it's probably worth, you know, 30 quid of your hard-earned pounds. For me, it's a pass, and I just wanted to pass that on to you whilst I have this in my possession. I may not have it in my possession for that much longer because I just don't see that I would wear it. I have loads of clones. I have the original, so you know, if I want that Aventus DNA, I'll not be reaching for this one. Okay, so those are my honest opinions on Mont Blanc Explorer. I just don't see a place for it in the market, particularly for frag heads, particularly for us that are quite into fragrances. I don't see a place for it. Having said all that, it's probably going to sell really well for Mont Blanc. I think people who aren't frag heads, people who maybe aren't aware of Aventus, will go into their department store, they'll smell the DNA of Explorer and they'll love it and they'll buy it. So at the end of the day, whilst I don't think it's a worthy purchase, I think many people will be purchasing it because they're just ignorant to the fact that there are so many better options for a similar price. But there you have it. Mont Blanc's intention is obviously to make money. They are a business. I think they're going to do that. I think it is going to be a popular fragrance, but my thoughts on it are it's just not as good as Aventus. Simple as that. All right, so there's all the information. There are my opinions. You go away and form your own. Take the information I've given you and decide whether it's a purchase that you should be going for. Go in store, smell it, see what you think, compare it to Aventus, compare it to the clones. You know, maybe I'm wrong in my opinions, but I'm just telling you what I think. All right? Do you have experience with Mont Blanc Explorer? Do you agree with me? Do you think it's Aventus light, or do you think it's as good as Aventus? Do you think it's better than Aventus? If you disagree with my opinion, that's absolutely fine. I'd still love to hear from you in the comments. All right, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for watching. Remember, keep tuning into FM and keep smelling good.